tell us how qualifying went this morning?
To be honest, it was pretty horrible. It rained about 10 minutes before qualifying. It was quite heavy rain. We had one session go out before us, which is the single seaters. Formula 4s seemed to be quite good at clearing the water, so it was almost dry at the start of the session. So went out on wets with quite a thick tread and started off well, but as the temperature started to sort of get a bit hot in the rear, so about halfway through the session there was a lot of oversteer with the car, and we just sort of slipped down the order. I think we were in 4th at one point and we ended up down at 15th, so yeah, quite a difficult session.
We can now have a look at the first race of the weekend, where Luke started 15th on the grid. Can you tell us about the first lap of the race?
Yeah, it was pretty mental to be honest. I knew we had to make the most of that first lap. In this series it's all about getting in there early. Because of the lack of power and a relatively low slipstream, you really need to get your advantage as quickly as possible when you're on bunch together. So yeah, luckily for us there was a bit of an accident at the first corner. We made the most of that into turn 1, and it's a big braking phase from Montreal to turn 1. Sent it down the outside there, and we picked up a good few places. I think we were running in about 6th by the second lap. So 15th to 6th, yeah, we're jumping up.
After that great first lap from Luke, he ran up in 6th position, or 7th position after lap 1, just behind Ollie Basie Fisher in the number 17 car. Just in front of the pair of them, you can see that being Clive Richards. Luke had a look on the inside of Basie Fisher as they headed through Oggies, wasn't able to get through. So Mark Davies leads the way then as they turn their way through Palmer. He's just ahead of the 21 car, David Pittard. And then in the 3rd place, the number 70 machine of Jake Giddens, the Clio racer. They're all together. And up at Agostina there's been a change. Down to 3rd has come Mark Davies, the Ginetta GT Supercup racers. And now it's the ex-Brit car racer. He raced a Porsche last year. That's David Pittard that leads the way as they head their way through Oggies. Brad Bailey joining them in that battle for the lead now. It's a battle went on for the lead. Luke run up in the 6th position, which then became 5th, and he ended up finishing in that 5th position. Meanwhile, the leaders battled on. It was David Pittard that took the victory out of Jake into Brad Bailey. Mark Davies had an off and he dropped back down to 8th, allowing Luke to finish up there in that 5th position there in the number 8 car. We've caught up with him after the race. Let's see what he thinks about the rest of the weekend.
Tomorrow's races. Yeah, tomorrow's it's going to be a tough one again because we'll be starting a long way down the field for the second race. To be honest, we just want to get as far up the grid as we can because our result from the second race will be our qualifying for the 3rd race. So if I could just get nicely within that top 10, if I could be around another 5th would be good actually. And then we know that we've got race winning pace again, so it's just being in a place to attack for that final race.
And how do you look for the rest of the championship?
It's a long one. We're going to Spa next. Can't wait for that. Yeah, we've got testing at Spa soon, so track I've always aspired to go to, so that'll be a lot of fun. Yeah, as I said, it's a long championship, and it's just about consistency. If we can minimise our bad weekends like we have so far this weekend, yeah, hopefully we'll be in with a shout at the end of it.
Thank you. It was another strong race from Luke on Sunday morning for the second race of the weekend. He finished 6th position from starting way back there. He was a victory over David Pittard, 2nd Brad Bailey, and 3rd was Mark Davies. Luke took us around the Ginetta G40 car, so let's take a look what one of these G40 Challenge cars look like. Take us around the Ginetta G40.
Yeah, so what we've got here is a challenge car, the senior car. If we bring the camera in, we'll take a look inside. So we're running it was very similar to the junior Ginettas that you see on the BTCC package. We've got the 6-speed sequential gearbox that's just shift back to go up a gear and forward to go back down a gear. We got heads-up display on there that brings up yellow lights going to red, and then they flash when you reach 7,200 RPM. You have a slight lift on the throttle, and that gear will select straight away. So it's the only difference to the G50 is we don't have a throttle cut. In the G50 you have a throttle cut, and you can just bang it into gear and keep your foot flat out on the throttle. So it's sort of just a good training, a good training car to get you ready for the bigger GT4 cars. So that's basically everything that's in there. If we have a look here, you see that we're running the Michelin slicks. It's quite a hard compound that we run, and that's to control costs. Usually you find that they've got a really good initial heat cycle. If you're running a new set of slicks in quali, they really are like chewing gum for that session, but after that first session they tend not to quite have the same bite. It's a good control tire. We get 4 sets for the year. So we have to, a bit of strategy comes into play then. Usually what we tend to do is have one full set of new slicks for one round, and then we use that slicks for another round, and then we bolt on new rubber. Some people just tend to put on 2 new tyres for qualifying every round they go to, just to get, on the tyre that's load bearing, just to try and get that bit of extra grip. So yeah, those are your main principles. Apart from that, I think it's a smart, good looking little car, and yeah, that's Ginetta G40.
Can you talk about some of the sponsors that have helped you out this year?
Yeah, I'm very lucky to be sponsored by Henderson's Insurance, who you see there, and yeah, it's a real privilege for me because they're a pretty big name in racing. They took James Toseland up to World Superbikes, and on the same paddock as us on these weekends, they also sponsor United Autosports. So they're up to this point, they've sponsored Mark Blundell in the car, and I think it's now Glyn Geddy who's taken over that drive. So that's a real privilege for me to be associated with a team like that, and yeah, hopefully that will bode well for the future. We also, if we have a look around the back of the car, you see Brimstone Limited, which is my family business, and that's a Norfolk-based aggregates company. And yeah, so that's they've been my sponsors from the beginning, and at the moment we've got Henderson's for this year, and hopefully a few lined up for the future as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Will Burns leads the way as they head down into Nelson, and it's Pittard. They're in second side by side. Brad Bailey there, Luke Davenport just gets pushed out a bit wide, and that's allowed the number 41 car of Clive Richards to move up ahead of him as they and also Mark Davies has put him through there as they have into Coram on this first lap of the 15-minute race. And into Nelson, it's Davenport ahead of Davies now as they head down towards the bomb hole for this second lap of the Snetterton 300 circuit. They head to the bomb hole, and look how close they are. These Ginetta G40 challenge cars providing some of the best racing here this weekend. And on the Reflex racing cars, they're going round. That's the number 28 car, that's the G20. That's Nick Zablotsky that's had a spin. It's battle on here between Luke Davenport and Mark Davies. They exit now, so the two of them absolutely nose to tail. If Davies was much closer, he'd be pushing the Reflex car of Davenport, and the two of them really battling hard as they head up in towards Coram Curve. It's Davenport just ahead at the moment. Luke also managed to find his way past the 17 car of Ollie Basie Fisher. There, the ex-junior racer who tried to fight back on the last lap, but Luke managed to stay ahead of him. And the original winner, Will Burns, had a 10-second penalty. So that moved Luke up to second, so a good weekend in all, even though the bad qualifying. And Luke's now moved up to third in the championship. Brad Bailey leading the way, heading into Spa.